Imagine you've made an online game in your spare time for fun. And then suddenly your government slams you with legal requirements to perform pages upon pages of annual risk assessments and threatens non-compliance with up to millions in fines. How do you respond? Yeah, that'll do it. Enter the UK's Online Safety Act. The Act aims to protect people online in the UK, prioritising but not exclusive to children. Because everyone knows that to the government, if you play video games, you are a child. It covers 3 phases. Our games are mostly related to Phase 1. Phase 2 mostly covers adult content, which isn't relevant unless you play Final Fantasy XIV online. Children will come into play if the body deems your game accessible by them at the same time as people who work at Subway, so they'll need to find adequate age verification protections in place. Late 2023, it received royal assent in the way of a 76-year-old king giving a signature, and throughout 2024 the act has been implemented. So why haven't you heard of it? Service providers only need to comply as of December 2024, and in March, they are obligated to provide a full risk assessment to the Office of Communications, or Ofcom, the UK government body that protects TV, radio, and telco. This is when the noise will start happening. This risk assessment is an insane amount of work. It's the kind of legislation that you hire overpaid consultants to fix for you. In my research alone, I read through their most recent 18-page implementation update, which referred to the risk assessment guide, which is 84 pages. I tried to read the fees and fine structure, which is another 54 pages, but it was straight legalese, so I got some help for that one. The process is as follows. You begin your risk assessment with a questionnaire, which guides you to understanding the risks your online service has. I answered questions imagining I was running an MMO. Online gaming, alongside user-to-user chats, private groups, and anonymous user profiles are flagged as threat vectors for scams, hate, harassment, stalking, and drugs and terrorism. Okay then. So after you finish that, it spits out a 20-page document where you must supply a risk level, factors, characteristics, existing controls, as well as evidence for said content risks, for 17 different forms of illegal content. If you don't do this, you're subject to enforcement actions ranging from specific steps to become compliant, to becoming liable for up to £18 million or 10% of your revenue, whichever is greater. I checked everywhere, every document, every page, and even the government UK website. It's not a typo, greater is the word here. The citation says it will use an evidenced and proportionate approach, but it also then says it can literally cut internet providers off from service in the UK if they deem it severe enough. And to be clear, this applies to everyone who services users in the UK, not only UK companies, not only certain revenue brackets, and not certain employee sizes. They explicitly state that they apply to anyone who runs an online service that has a significant number of users in the UK. Big, small, or literally a sole individual. Urban Dead was a web-based MMO that survived for over 19 years, created by Kevin Davis, a man after my own heart with a serious passion for creating random ADHD projects. The game has been pretty much dead and in maintenance mode, but in the face of extra workload and the risk of the act provided, he made the decision to shut it down. I do remember it existing as a kid, but not really playing it much. I made a police officer most recently and wandered around uneventfully for 50 turns until I was told to wait 30 minutes for another AP. How very 2000s. I may not have fond memories playing it, but many people did, as per his coffee page, which burst in activity as the game took its last breath. So many hours dedicated to your game, so many friends made there, so much bad fan fiction written about it when I was in high school. Thanks for keeping it running as long as you could. I'll never forget it. I've been playing a zombie in your browser game since August 2005. I was part of the Undying Scourge, the LUE, and then the Scourge at the very end. Thanks for 20 years. Urban Dead, on and off, since 2007. I'll never forget the Battle of Giddings, one of my favorite gaming moments of all time. Thank you for all the memories. It's not exactly a blockbuster MMO, but these are references to historic events and memories that mean nothing to me and you, but a lot to the players. MMO history is frequently unrecorded and lost to time, so it's genuinely really sad to see it go. Let's take a look at compliance. When the creator of the UK's largest MMO, RuneScape, set out to create another online game, Brighter Shores, there were some design choices made that annoyed players badly. Andrew Gower took a very heavy-handed approach to the regulations to protect himself, which, when you understand the full context of the risk, I've come to understand far deeper. Opt-in only settings for names, chats, and other anonymity features. Terms and conditions windows for using chat. Missing leaderboards, which were then later added and had drama surrounding the opt-in nature of them. A picky name creator that doesn't let you go too political or too far into IP's franchises. And worst of all, a hyper-aggressive AI chat filter that can be frustrating to play around. In his defense, it worked. The game is completely sanitized, and outside of social media, it's actually for the most part very positive when interacting with other players and a joy to do so. But the free market determined it was too much. It's not the sole reason there are few players, but it's definitely a factor and a source of fair criticism. The team have been working on making the filter more lax and improving the social features as we go. When facing the threat of millions of dollars for a few bad users, going aggressive and then easing up is simply the most sound approach. Let's go for a quick drive in Cambridge to find the MMO Big Dog based in the UK. JX doesn't have as aggressive policies as Brighter Shores. Why? As far as I can tell, the rules are simply mitigations, and as long as you can prove with sufficient record keeping, evidence, and processes, you are compliant. To put it simply, a misuse of the platform isn't an immediate fine, but a lack of effort to prevent it is. If your efforts are deemed insufficient, but not negligent, they will provide specific steps to become compliant before issuing fines. JX has 600 staff and over 2,000 player moderators as of 2019 numbers. Enough staff that reading mod smackdowns on the RuneScape subreddits is a favorite hobby of the players, including me. Whereas Brighter Shores has a shitty glorified chatbot and half a community manager who was recently pushed into dev work. I believe JX has sufficient systems in place with their moderation teams and rules which mention everything discussed so far. This allows them to potentially be compliant. However, when they complete their risk assessment in March, if Ofcom deem anything insufficient, they will provide recommendations they must adhere to. So if we're going to see changes, it will be this year. It's also worth noting that they implemented the JX account system being mandatory as of November 7th, 2023, just 1 month after the act was signed. Forums are a common victim of the Online Safety Act, with the RuneScape forums being shut down the following year, as well as other non-gaming UK-based forums who took the Sudoku route as well. As for outside of the UK, the biggest social media services have put in many changes over the last couple of years. Some companies, now under threat of enforcement, may simply pull out entirely. Some gaming giants such as Steam and Blizzard has simply said stuff you, we don't care. WhatsApp and Signal both threatened to leave rather than lower their encryption to comply with their requirements, which caused changes to the act before it was passed. So will World of Warcraft and Final Fantasy XIV lead the UK? No. All of the big companies will get through this, not unlike they did with GDPR, which had its own set of challenges in 2018. I predict we might see some implementations of account protections or additional options for the users if we haven't already. A big focus is on user customization, and of those two, Final Fantasy improved its own blacklist system to reduce stalking and abusive behavior just last year. Games with user-generated content, especially with any possibility of it being adult, will be under a microscope. VRChat is a great example of this, with a content gating system flagging worlds as suggestive, violent, horror, or otherwise being added 1 month after the act was announced. The year after that, they added age verification for adult worlds. With compliance dates just around the corner, this will affect the gaming landscape if it hasn't already. Larger companies are under a lot of scrutiny from Ofcom with threats of huge fines, and smaller companies or even indie projects based in the UK are at risk of an administrative nightmare in the best case scenarios. Ultimately, many of these new improvements are exactly that. Being able to hide from stalkers in Final Fantasy, dear god why are there so many stalkers, being able to customize your experience to your own preferences or what content you see, all of these are positive changes. The risks, of course, are having video games, an entertainment product, wrapped around enough British red tape to make your head spin. There's also the classic 1984 Orwellian comparisons, which turn out to be less and less theories every day, but this isn't that type of channel. I'm just here to play at video games like the adult child I am. If you too are a fellow adult child, please do like and subscribe for more MMO related content. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.